Welcome back to Stamping at the Warren. I'm Kim Tolton and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in Essex in the UK. And today I'm going to share with you a very quick and simple card that needs very few in the way of resources and perfect for complete beginners to start with. And this has been cased from the annual catalogue. See there? Encasing just means that you can copy and paste anything, so you can do it exactly as is, or you can adapt it however you choose. The choice is yours. And the stamp sets that I'm using is Summer Silhouettes, beautiful stamp that's got several different stamps in there to make up all sorts of collagey type cards. And then the sentiment is from A Dozen Thoughts. I'll be using a slightly different one today to the one on the card, but those are the two stamp sets that we're using. So to crack straight on, and I'll pop that just over there for a moment. This is your card base, and a card base or a card blank is the framework that you then put your card front on. So you build a card front and then you adhere that to the front of your card base. Now this card base is for an A6 card, so it measures 21 centimetres by 14.8, sorry, so 21 centimetres by 14.8 centimetres. And then you can either use, as I have here, my scoring blade on my stamping trimmer, or you can use your stamping tool with the stylus to create a score line at 10.5 centimetres along that long edge. You then fold that in half, and the key thing with this is where the indentation is, so this is the indentation. This side is where the card's been pushed through and you've got a ridge, so you always fold towards that ridge. So you fold that way so that that little hollow crease sits there. And then to make it sit nice and flat, if you have a bone folder, run it along that edge. Doesn't matter whether it's the blunt end or the pointed end. Run it along, and there you can see the card sits nice and flat and it will stand up beautifully. So pop that to one side until we're ready for that. The piece of card that we're actually going to be working on is a regular piece of Whisper White cardstock, whereas the card base was made from slightly thicker cardstock, and that's the Stampin' Up A4 Whisper White thicker cardstock. So this is just the regular stuff, and we're going to stamp on here. I'm going to start by using Bermuda Bay, so I'm using predominantly the Brights ink pads today, and they all coordinate with each other, which is fab, so you don't have to worry about what colour combinations you're using. And I'm going to use the mosaic stamp. So with a clear mount stamp you have an image that side and then your stamp is on this side. So I find it easier to put my stamp rubber side up and just gently tap, and that way you tend not to risk getting excess ink around the edges and over inking the stamp. And I'm going to use first to probably 5th generation stamping, and this just means the amount of times I'm going to stamp on the card before I put more ink on the stamp. So we're going to graduate these up to give an ombre effect. 2, 3, 4 and 5. There you go. So you can see that graduated colour there. Always close your ink pads after you've used them to avoid them drying out. Next we're going to go with Old Olive, which is beautiful green, but it's a little bit too intense for what I want to use. So again, stamp, no, wrong stamp, I want the leaf stamp, that would help. So that lovely leaf there. So again, rubber side upwards, tap 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 tap, and you can see if it's been fully inked. And then to remove some of that ink, I'm just going to very gently put a little bit of that excess ink here, and then I'm going to pop 1, 2, 3 bits of leaves. Alright, and you can do as many of those or as few of those as you like. Next comes the stems. So let's close this ink pad. Open up the stems, which is done using one of the neutrals, and obviously neutrals go with just about anything, and this is for the stems of that flower. So tap tap tap, and you want a couple of these and have them so they sort of overlap but have them fairly random. You do want those stems to be nice and intense. Let's have that one up there, I think. Okay, there's no hard and fast rules with any of this, just have a bit of fun and stamp away. And then the next one we're going to do is actually these, the actual blossoms. So same technique, tap tap tap, and because you can see the pattern, you can see that arch of the flower, so you can be very precise in where you're putting it. I'm actually going to do 2 rows just to make that blossom look a little bit more full. There you go. And then I'm going to repeat that with this one. Hopefully the shadow of my arm's not getting in the way. Perhaps if I do it there for you. There you go, so you've got your 2 flowers. And that's pretty much the card done. All you've got to do now, all you have to do now is the actual sentiment strip. For that I have just done a piece of Whisper White cardstock, so this will go on here with the writing. So a piece of Whisper White cardstock measuring 2 centimetres deep by 10.1 centimetres wide, so it's exactly the same size as there. And before, I think I used, what did we use before? Where's my card gone? So before we did the You Made My Day, today I'm going to use the Just Because, but this stamp set is a really good all-round one, so I'll just quickly show it to you. So you've got Bravo, Hello, It's a Boy, Wish Big, It's a Girl, You're Invited, You're in My Thoughts, Better Get Better, Happy Together, You Made My Day, One of a Kind card for one a kind person, and Just Because. So it covers almost all sentiments that you're going to need. So if you're starting out a stamp set like that, along with maybe a floral stamp set, and you'll be on your way with a few ink pads and a stack of Whisper White cardstock, and you can start creating really lovely cards. So now I need my, put it underneath, didn't I? So we're going back to tie this in with the sentiment. We're going to be using the Early Espresso ink pad again, and exactly the same, upside down, tap along, and with a long fairly thin one you just want to make sure that there's no excess ink around the edges of this stamp, and I've managed not to. That's not to say it won't be perfect, so let's have a go. Centre it down, have a good firm grip on your stamp, get as central as you can, down, gentle press, straight up. There you go. A lot of people make errors because they feel that they've got to do this and really sort of press it in, and actually you end up, you can probably see here, it just smudges and it doesn't give a nice crispy image. So down, gentle press, straight back up, and you should have a beautiful stamp. I'm going to use Fast Fuse to actually pop this on because it's nice and quick and easy. And to use Fast Fuse, you want to press down at the front, keeping the base fairly parallel, and then you bring it down all the way to the end, and then you do a quick flick. If any gets on your paper, rub it off and it's gone. Bring that back down, and then just centre this on the front, press it down, and this is now going to get put on the front of our card base. Obviously make sure that it's going on the front cover, not the back cover. And to do this, I'm going to pop it up a little bit so it stands proud of that card base. So I'm using Stampin' Dimensionals for this. These are little adhesive foam pads that just give a couple of millimeters lift to any sort of project, and it just adds a bit of dimension. If you can see my my bloody finger here whilst I'm just doing this, I was doing something last night with a scalpel and managed to cut straight through the top of my finger, and I did say a few tasty words. I wasn't very impressed because the card I was working on got covered in blood at the time. So do be careful if you're using a blade. They are sharp and they can do damage and they can wreck your projects. But hey ho, after 30 odd years of making cards, you think I'd know better. So we centre that on there. And if it's not quite right because of these little dimensionals, you can just reposition it. And there you have your card. Thank you very much for watching today. The full tutorial will be on my blog at www.stampingatthewarren.blogspot.co.uk. You can also email me on kim.tolton@googlemail.com. Hope to see you back soon. Thank you.